If this is your first time you're here yet today, I'm sorry. Good luck and make a card. Let's play Matchmaker without the swiping. Our first analyst is a die-hard Seahawks fan, but she'd rather be lovesick than seasick. And it is Mina Kimes. Our second analyst knows a thing or two about love because he's read the book or two about love. The Pits, but now he's winning awards and hearts on the big screen. Welcome, Ryan Clark. Nina, our first analyst, let's start with you. Contestant number one has spent some time cold and weather, but he's ready to warm up with some new love. Mina, who is Sam Darnold's perfect match?
You know, Kevin, relationships are all about compatibility, and I think Sam Darnold might actually fit well with the Las Vegas Raiders. Here's why. Darnold showed in Minnesota, given good pass protection, he can really fling it. And while the Raiders don't have the best offensive line, it's a young group that has talented players. I think it would give him enough time to get the ball in the hands of playmakers like Brock Bowers and Urban Myers. This does not prohibit them from drafting a quarterback. It just buys them some time and will give Darnold another chance to be a starter for a team that I think would actually want to be with him, not just settle for.
That is a match only Elvis would love in a small little chapel that has the light on for 24 hours. Contestant number two is the ultimate protector of a two-time MVP, but now maybe looking for a new franchise to protect Ross. Who is Ronnie Stanley's perfect match? Well, it's great to be wanted, but it's even better sometimes to be needed. And if you watch the Super Bowl, you know the Kansas City Chiefs need some help at left tackle. Once upon a time, they acquired a tackle from the Baltimore Ravens, Orlando Brown. They could reduce that this year on the free agent market. If the Baltimore Ravens don't want Ronnie Stanley back, wouldn't be surprised to see the Chiefs poking around on him in free agency. He would solve a major need of theirs. And of course, not that this isn't true with the Ravens, but every free agent wants to sign with a team that gives them the best chance to win a championship. And finally, contestant number three's been the second choice in Cincinnati, but he's ready to be someone's number one and one and only RC, who is the perfect match for T. Higgins.
This may come as a surprise, but I'm going to say the Washington Commanders and Jaden Daniels. And look, it's Valentine's Day, and everybody wants to be the one. But football is different. It's okay to be a QB or a wide receiver polygamist. And with a guy like T. Higgins, he's already been a brother wide receiver along with Jamar Chase. So bring him over with T. Higgins. Yes, he won't get all 7 days, but he may get 4. And on that special night, when he's the number one, he'll get to shine and be on the arms of the great Jaden Daniels.
Ooh, okay. We see that potential love connection. And I'm done with this. There's no doubt that the Bengals have had more success when T. Higgins is available. I've peaked in my career, guys. This was it. Bengals went 8-4 when Higgins played last season compared to 1-4 when he didn't. They averaged more points per game, and Joe Burrow averaged 23 more yards per game. And interestingly enough, Jamar Chase loved it when T was there. Look at the numbers. Because, of course, the focus of the defense, not just on number one, it was help there on the other side. So, Graz, we heard Joe Burrow, and let me tell you, if a mic was hot, Joe Burrow was talking all last week on Radio Row, explaining the situation, and he made it sound so easy and simple about, hey, how do we keep the family together here? Is it that simple?
Well, no, obviously, no, it's not that simple, and there's a couple of reasons why. One, what is Joe Burrow actually talking about in terms of his willingness to work with his own contract? Is he willing to give back money the way Aaron Rodgers did when he got to the Jets? Or is he just talking about kicking the can down the road in terms of cash and cap? So that has yet to be answered. But regardless of that, the biggest obstacle the Cincinnati Bengals face in signing any free agent ever is their preferred contract structure. They insist on a contract structure that they do not guarantee any money beyond the first year. they made an exception for Joe Burrow. If Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Trey Hendrickson insist on second-year guarantees, then the Bengals are either going to have to change the way they've always done business, or they're going to have to say goodbye to those guys. So it's tricky right now. We don't know exactly what will happen with Jamar Chase and his extension. T. Higgins can be franchised again. It would cost about $26 million. Not ridiculous, but also maybe not something they want to do in light of all their other needs. So no, Kevin, not that simple. Bengals are in for a tricky offseason.
Well, first I'll say I love Joe Burrow putting pressure on the franchise to rethink the way they structure contracts, as Dan talked about. He brought up the example of the Philadelphia Eagles, who seem to be able to afford everyone in large part because they put a lot of cash up front, big signing bonuses, particularly with some of these guys that they've signed on offense. That's great. And I do think if the Bengals did that, they could retain more of their free agents. The problem for them, though, is unlike the Philadelphia Eagles, they have drafted extremely poorly on defense. This is part of the reason why the Eagles are able to spend so much on offense, is that they hit on so many picks on defense. The Bengals, unfortunately, have not. And then the other issue with Higgins in particular, RC can speak to this as well, he is so far and away the gem of free agency, the receiver that many teams will want, that even if they restructure Burrow's contract and give big signing bonuses and could afford him, they might still get priced out because he's in so much demand and other teams are willing to break the bank. So it's not impossible, but I do think it would be difficult.
Mina, that's exactly what I talked about yesterday, is that you can have these heavy contracts offensively when you're Philadelphia because of the young talent on the defensive side of the ball that you've had yet to pay. They don't have that in Cincinnati. Also, with Al Golden now becoming the defensive coordinator, you're going to try to find ways to make this defense better. And maybe this is an opportunity where you go to Joe Burrow and you say, look, you had an historic season. We watched Jamar and T. Higgins dominate, but we still didn't make it to the playoffs because we couldn't get stops. And so now you're going to have to earn that contract. You're going to have to show us that you're worth it without having a 1A and a 1B wide receiver. And to the other point that Mina made is this. Yes, you can sign A.J. Brown and you can sign Devontae Smith because you're talking about a guy who's the third highest paid wide receiver in A.J. Brown and someone who is farther down the list in Devontae Smith. With Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, you could possibly be talking about the number one paid wide receiver by a large amount in Chase and the number 2 or 3 guy in T. Higgins.
Yeah, and no matter how many points you put up, you still got to stop somebody. Keep in mind the Bengals had 4 losses this season when they scored 30 points or more. Tied for the most in NFL history. Keep in mind, if they would have made the playoffs, that MVP could have been Joe Burrow because that defense let him down each and every single week. Let's
Tất cả các bạn đã đến với kênh YouTube của mình, và video ngày hôm nay mình sẽ đi tô màu, và những bức tranh của mình tô màu sẽ chắc chắn rất chi là đẹp. Mình sẽ tô rất chi là nhiều những con vật này, mà chủ yếu của mình sẽ tô là con vật rất chi là nhiều. Đấy, đây các bạn hãy xem những con vật của mình. Đây là những sản phẩm của mình tô màu này, và